Everyone, and welcome to the College Chaps Podcast. If you've listened to this show for any time, you know I really miss an opportunity to talk about the wonderful state of Alabama. In fact, the only shock this season it's taken us until week 11 to fit in an episode about the Yellowhammer State. But first, we are the College Chaps. I had my intro all set up to introduce both you and Ollie, Alex, but for some bizarre reason, the two of you cannot make it onto the episode at the same time. You've been missing for a few weeks. Volleyball has beckoned. How are you, Chief?
Yeah, really good. Still unbeaten, still not dropped a set this year, so we're in a really good spot. And yeah, looking forward to jumping back on and shooting the breeze with everyone.
Yeah, Alabama's not your favourite subject, but you can't pick and choose when you only turn up at once every 8 weeks.
We also can't pick and choose when you're the person who selects the guests. And shock, we've got another person that covers football in the state of Alabama on the podcast.
Well, I mean, we have tried to even things out. As Alec has hinted, our guest returns for her second appearance. I think the term insider is often overused, but if you follow the Crimson Tide, you'll find our guest at the epicenter of anything coming out of Tuscaloosa these days, covering the school for Yale, Alabama, and Cover Crimson. Our guests give some of the best access available, so it's awesome to welcome back Emily Grace McWhorter. Emily Grace, welcome. How are you?
Hello. Hey guys, I'm so happy to be back. And George, I love your quarter zip. I didn't even notice that
Did
you're
you
wearing
know
a Alabama.
we have a kind of thing on this podcast. You always play to the home crowd. Whoever comes on, we just try and find what we can to, and
So
it was
good.
just, you know, but I do love this jumper. And that's timely because the last time you were on, you weren't working with Ye
No.
Alabama. I only found out when I saw you again in Tuscaloosa. So
Yep.
new job for you, but that really does put you right at the middle of things in Tuscaloosa, doesn't it?
It does, and it has been so much fun, you guys. So I am now fully Bama. I was covering Auburn and Alabama at once. That came with its own set of, let's use the word struggles, if you will, but they were good struggles. I was having to balance a lot. I landed on one side, and that side is Alabama. So I work with Yay Alabama, and I enjoy every second of it. So I'm in the facility, I'm getting these great sit downs and learning so much. And then I'm also with Cover Crimson. And so I'm still the media personality. I'm still sitting, in the press room, raising my hand on Mondays. And then, of course, game days where I got to see George. Which game was that for? That was for ULM that we were together?
That was ULM. Yeah, yeah,
We had
that
a
was
lot
good
of
fun.
fun.
That
Yep.
was a lot of fun. That was a lot of
Yep.
fun. I mean, I'm so incredibly jealous of when we got down onto the field level. I was like, wow,
Mhm.
this is different level. This is so cool. You spend all your time down there, so
Yep. So I spend my time down there, and it has been, like I said, it's been so much fun to cover Alabama in general. I mean, you guys know it is the pinnacle of college football. I mean, it's the pinnacle of college athletics, really. And so getting one season under Coach Saban, covering his retirement, Kalen DeBoer's hiring, Kalen DeBoer's first season, and now second season under Coach DeBoer and this staff, who I've just grown to just absolutely adore in this team. I have to pinch myself that this is my job, honestly.
yeah, no, it's really cool. Okay, before we get on to Alabama, because we are going to talk quite a bit about
Yeah.
Crimson Tide, you touched about the fact that you're in the state. There
Mm-hmm.
was a lot has happened on the other side of the state this week, and Hugh is no longer there.
He's no
Um,
longer.
it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, we could spend the whole episode talking about the number of firings that we've had in the SEC alone this year. But talk a little bit about the impact of Hugh Freeze being let
Hmm.
go at Auburn. There's two parts to that question. One is, I think if I'm right, Auburn now looking for their fourth head coach in 7 years. Where do they go from there? But also, I take it that the Auburn fans had really just got to a point where they just didn't want any more from Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, no, and it's one of those things, George and Alex, when you look at Auburn, you mentioned it, this will be the fourth head coach in 7 years. You have Gus Malzahn, Brian Harsin, failed experiment there, and now Hugh Freeze, who always said in year three, give me 3 years and you will see the dividends of what we're doing. It's so interesting because recruiting wise, he was executing. He was signing and inking these classes that were so impressive. So it wasn't necessarily a talent issue. And when you look at the ways in which Auburn's seasons have played out these last couple of years, it's been painful to watch because it's not for lack of talent. It just seems like Auburn was finding ways to lose games instead of win games. And that to me falls back on the head coach and the staff. And, Auburn fans are told and college football fans that Hugh is this offensive mind, this guru, this quarterbacks guy that is just going to have a high powered offensive output. And we never seem to see that come to fruition. So then it was, well, we have some quarterback issues. We're going to go to the portal. So long, Peyton Thorne. We're going to bring in Jackson Arnold, who has SEC experience, with OU being in the conference, beat Alabama, and we're going to bring him in, see what he's got. It did not work. And now you're sitting where it's another season that did not go as planned, yet you have this roster, you have this defense that is incredibly talented, and yet you can't put it together to win a complete game. I can't imagine how frustrated fans are right now. I'm not as close to the program as I once was, but what I do know about Auburn fans is after covering that team, they are some of the most devoted fan bases I've ever been around, I've ever seen. It did not matter who Auburn was playing. It did not matter the score. People were in those seats in an incredible atmosphere, incredible campus. Cannot say enough, things about those elements that Auburn brings, and yet the on-field product was abysmal. And again, like I said when I, started answering this question, when you look at the ways in which Auburn lost these games, they weren't blowouts. Auburn was in so many of these games, down to the wire. You look at the first half of the Georgia game this season. We're sitting here thinking that, oh my goodness, Auburn has a chance to potentially shut Georgia out, and wow, like this is crazy. But then a call doesn't go, the way in which Auburn thinks it should go, and the rest of the game is derailed. So it was time. I think it was made evident by that. I did hold the belief that I could have seen them holding on to Hugh if he'd kept, winning, if they, kept pulling those wins out until at least the end of the season, because as you mentioned, a quarter of the SEC now is on the coaching carousel. And, I have a feeling that it's only going to, continue, obviously outside the conference. And so I'm not exactly sure who Auburn targets as the next head coach, but it has to be someone that is going to pour into the culture of Auburn, pour into that fan base with on-field product, not just words anymore.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, some of the names, well, now we've got 4 head coaches being hired in the SEC, so it's typically the same names that are doing the rounds. But John Sumrall's name has come up a lot with Auburn, and you made reference to the Brian Harsin disaster. Hugh Freeze came in with SEC coaching experience.
Yep.
Maybe the question was it recent coaching experience, and was he behind the times when it came to the SEC in the current mode? But it's really difficult to see where they're going to go with the next hire, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be interesting to see because you want someone that understands the SEC. You want someone that's going to be able to recruit well. That was a question that a lot of people had for Coach DeBoer when he got to Bama was, can he recruit in the South? Can he recruit well? Can he recruit to the level that is expected in the SEC? Him and Courtney Morgan have been able to do that with, obviously we're seeing the results of that. For Auburn, you are it's an interesting standpoint because you also have to consider this. When you look at the roster now, you're having to recruit back that roster because you don't know what that talent that Hugh did bring, if they're going to stay, if they're going to be bought in, or if they're going to go, rightfully or wrongfully so. I land on the rightful side of it with the transfer portal, all that good stuff, to go see what they have somewhere else. Because like I said, I mean, you have these receiving core that is just not seeing the fruits of their labor translate to the field. And it's like, what do you do? I'm really curious because too, when you look at the other jobs that are open in the SEC right now, I do think Auburn is a really solid job, but I do think that they would have had a head start had they parted ways with Hugh a little earlier. Now, they obviously could not have predicted what has transpired since, but I do think they're a little behind the 8 ball now considering the other jobs that are now available in the SEC.
I think it's really important looking at these head coaches as well. The best coaches, they don't make it about them. They make
Mhm.
it about their environment. So whenever you heard Saban talk when he was at Alabama, it was never about him. It was always about Bama. And I think a lot of the head coaches that have gone through Auburn in the last sort of cycle, this last 7 seasons, it's been a lot about them and not a lot about this great place that you've been describing, right? Talk about the
Mhm.
fans, talk about the people that make the program great, and then invest in those people, start to build those people up, and maybe then you'll start to see some success moving forward.
Right. I mean, that's a
Mhm.
great point because it's like, it can't be about the coach. And I think with Hugh Freeze, I mean, you guys saw his press conferences at times, some of the things that he would say or convey about different players. And I think everyone owes Peyton Thorne an apology in some facet. And if you look at his Instagram comments, people are headed there to do just that. But I think that it takes an
Mhm.
unselfishness for greatness, and you have to have that as a head coach. And I think that whoever Auburn lands next, the SEC is fun when Auburn is good. The
Mhm.
SEC is a great product as is, but it's fun and it's even more exciting when teams like Auburn are good. Now, with that being said, do I expect when we head down to Auburn this, in 3 weeks for the Iron Bowl that, we're not going to see Auburn's absolute best with DJ Durkin at the helm in a spooky place that is Jordan Hare? Absolutely. But outside of that, I think that, you want to see a program like that has such history, that has such a solid fan base, have a coach that stewards it well.
Let's talk a little bit about then the other side of the state. Alabama 7-1 coming in. That loss right in week one. We know week
Mm,
one losses, they get forgotten about towards this time of year. They're a team that seems to be able to win close games. And in a format where way more teams are qualifying for the playoffs to win the national championship, having experience winning close games could lead to something really, really fun happening towards the end of the year. Yeah, that Oklahoma game coming up in a couple of weeks looks massive on the schedule. Anytime Bama plays LSU, it's huge.
hmm
And obviously the Iron Bowl to end the year. These three big games really to finish. Obviously, they've got a fourth game in there, but it's not really one that we need to talk about. Um, but these three big games to finish the year, Alabama seem battle tested right now. Are they a team that could go and win a national championship this year?
Well, I think when you look at what Alabama has been able to do since week one, and you look at the last 7 weeks that they have stacked, it's so impressive. And I was able to sit down with Coach Grubb, offensive coordinator, last week, and we talked about that fans and media alike, we don't quite get it, how hard it is to do what Alabama has done. And they've also had to win games in ways that they haven't had to before. So you mentioned those close games, Alex. Time of possession has been huge for Alabama this entire season. Against South Carolina, they did not have the upper hand when it came to time of possession, but they still found a way to win. And I think when you talk about being battle tested, the SEC is so competitive, but you're seeing such different styles of play each and every week. And so what Alabama has the benefit of is one, they're learning how to win in different ways, which is obviously very helpful. You have a quarterback like Ty Simpson that is continuing to gain reps every single outing. You also have some guys that the way the timing is going to work out, that you're going to have some guys getting back healthier towards the back end of the season, like Quay Rusaw on the defense. And so that's a good thing. It's a positive as well. But the overarching theme is yes, we had a really solid October. Yes, we had a really solid end of, September, barring week one, but it can be pissed away. And Ty Simpson said it himself. You cannot let what you did in September and October ruin what you need to do in November, because in a lot of ways we saw that happen to Alabama last season. They
Mhm.
were in control of their own destiny if they beat OU. And on the schedule, it did not look like a game that should have given Alabama as much trouble as it did. Now, in hindsight, mobile quarterback on the road unranked, now we can say, well, of course, that was going to be a game Alabama struggled with. At the time, none of us are sitting there. I was sitting in Auburn at the Texas A&M game thinking this is going to be a tough game for Bama, and ultimately Bama is going to lose that game. So I think that that's definitely top of mind for this team, that they know what they have to do. You cannot get complacent in the SEC. Alex, you said it. Anytime Bama plays LSU, it's a big game. There's an interim coach, another interim out there. And then you also have OU, which really strong defensive teams that Alabama's going to be facing. You have Eastern Illinois, and like you said, you never know, but it appears to be a gimme. And then you round things out with the Iron Bowl in Auburn against DJ Durkin. Again, another heavily defensive team that you might be able to find success against Bama. So I think that, the benefits are, one, you are battle tested. You're winning close games. And I think Coach DeBoer just likes a close game at this point because my heart rate doesn't love it. But when you look at his track record, he must like it. I don't know. But I also think what's been really fun to see and really cool to see is as the team is continuing to grow, the staff is as well. And the combination of Ryan Grubb, Coach DeBoer, and Nick Sheridan, quarterbacks coach, and then Ty Simpson, the offense is so just interesting. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know enough about, breaking down film and offensive schemes. I wish I did to appreciate it fully. But what I do know is that this is an offense it's creative, it is dangerous, and I think that it's going to continue to evolve because what I have continued to hear, and this is a rant, sorry guys, is defensively and offensively, we have not seen Bama's best yet. And what better time to do that than in November?
Yeah. You touched on last season, and that is a really good comparison because we've gone from first year of Coach DeBoer to his second year. But the changing variable is that Ryan Grubb's now offensive coordinator, right? And there was a certain unpredictability, not a good unpredictability about Alabama last year. You just weren't sure which team was going to turn up. And but you talk about those close games. Last year, Alabama lost those close games, and this year they're winning them. How much of the credit goes to Ryan Grubb because you sat down with him, Emily Grace, and you've got to hear a little bit about what's inside the guy's head. How much of that credit goes to the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot that goes to Ryan Grubb, but I think there's also a lot that has to go to Nick Sheridan and Ty Simpson and Coach DeBoer for being able to translate that onto the field. And one thing that I really loved what Coach Grubb said was, those last 2 minutes and 10 seconds of the South Carolina game, they were insane. Alabama focused with intensity to execute what they had to do. There was no other options. They executed the 2-point conversion. Then the defense hit the stop. Everything went right for Alabama in those 2 minutes, 10 seconds after an entire, 3.5 quarters prior, nothing was going right. And so that starts at the top. That starts with Coach Grubb, then Coach DeBoer. And Coach Grubb said, if I had let myself get down, if I had let myself in those the circumstances control the output, that would have seeped down to the players. And so I think what you're seeing is, you're seeing the minds of Coach DeBoer and Coach Grubb working together to produce a really high-powered offense, but then you have to give credit to the players for being able to execute it. And the trust, I keep hearing the word trust, you guys, like with these fun plays and trick plays that we're seeing, whether it's Jeremy Bernard or Caden Proctor, it comes down to the trust in the players to execute. And so what we're seeing is results of really hard practices and really focused practices. And the things that we don't see as fans and media because we're not there, it's coming to light on the field. And that's something that they continue to preach is that, what you do in the dark comes to light, and good teams continue to get better. And like we're saying, we're to November, and that has to be true of any team that wants to have success in the 12-team playoffs, that we're sitting exactly, a month out from the SEC championship? It's crazy.
I think I'm going to go off script. Sorry, George. People that are listening know this is what happens. But I think it's a really interesting hire, the DeBoer hire, because obviously he had success with Washington. They did really, really well, but it still seemed a little bit like an underwhelming hire at the time. But then you look at the powerhouse programs in recent memory, and really a lot of those coaching hires were slightly under the radar. I'm not going to say underwhelming, but slightly under the radar. Guys given a little bit of an opportunity to kind of build and prove their worth a little bit. And I think with so many teams now looking to hire the next guy, that's got to be a focus, right? You got to get someone in who's a builder, who's not necessarily flashy, but is just gonna make
do the
sure the
work.
right culture's there around practice. And like you say, that things can get turned around really quickly when your practice environment's really good.
Right, exactly. And I love that. And I think that's like, with Coach DeBoer, I think that I remember being in Tuscaloosa and, Coach Saban has retired and the coaching search has ensued. And I remember doing man on the street interviews with people like, okay, who do you want to be the next head coach? Who are you thinking? Who are you thinking? I don't think one person said Kalen DeBoer. Actually, I know they didn't because no one really knew about Kalen DeBoer when it came to, and I don't say that because I know that our listeners are very educated college football fans. A lot of people did know about him because he had just coached the national championship. But when it came to the SEC ecosystem, he wasn't on a lot of people's radar. They were wanting everyone Lane Kiffin. That was the big thing. Everyone Lane to come back to Tuscaloosa. And so I think what, Coach DeBoer offers is he offers a proven track record of being a winner. And when you look at what he's been able to do at each level, the results speak for themselves. And I think that honestly, when you look back to week one of this year, of this season, I'm not convinced that that's not arguably, a really good thing that happened to this team because we've seen the results of it. Now, of course, we can say that now because they turned it around. If they hadn't turned it around, I don't even know if I'd be on y'all's podcast right now because y'all probably wouldn't want to talk Bama. But with that being said, they did turn it around. And I think that speaks to, the culture that Coach DeBoer has built, but also maintained coming off of, Coach Saban and what he built at Alabama is still very prevalent. And then with the addition of, bringing Coach Grubb on this season and having Coach Sheridan as the quarterback's coach, I think that has been something that's very significant that they obviously didn't have last season. And you just have a team, right, where both sides of the ball are complementing each other. And there's a confidence in the defense that if the offense doesn't get it done, the defense is going to get it done. If the defense doesn't get it done, the offense is going to get it done. And that didn't really exist last season. And then you cap that all off with a quarterback that loves Alabama, loves his teammates, and loves to be coached. That is something I continuously heard. He loves to be coached. He loves to just learn the game of football, how he can be better. You put all that together and it kind of makes sense as to why they were able to turn things around.
And he's a real leader in the locker room, isn't
Yes.
he? Because I've had the benefit of hearing directly from him, and what they beat ULM 72-73-0.
Yeah.
And there was just this steely determination from him. There was none of
Mhm.
the what a fantastic result. It was
No.
like we could have done better and on to the next game. So which was missing last year, wasn't it? Because I think there's been an admission since that not every player bought into DeBoer
Mhm.
last year, but there's no question that there's a buy-in this year, and I think you've seen the
Yes.
result on the field, right?
Absolutely. And I think that that's George exactly right. The level of buy-in from the coaching staff and players is very tangible. And when I get to sit down with these assistants, it is so interesting because it never fails. And I'm not telling them what to say. We're just sitting down to chat and it all goes back to Coach DeBoer and what Coach DeBoer has built. And then, the players, their buy-in. And it's, Ty Simpson, who is coachable, who the locker room loves him. And also another element to that, guys, is the quarterback room. They are so supportive of Ty. And you don't get that every place you go. It's actually kind of rare. And me and Coach Sheridan were talking about that, Austin Mack and Keelan Russell are fully behind Ty. And that ultimately makes Ty better, right? When you have a room where they're learning and they're growing and they're able to, bounce off of each other and just be sponges almost. So I think there's a lot of things that are going right, but when you talk about Ty, leader on the field, off the field, and it's really cool to see him too. Just his faith is really important to him, and hear him talk about that and those different elements. It's special for sure.
Let's talk about the rankings quickly,
Okay.
because obviously we're into week one now, and six SEC teams in the top 12, but none in the top two. Two Big Ten teams taking up the slot in the top two. Do we think the SEC's competitiveness? I look at Indiana, right, ranked two. Yes, they're 9-0. Yes, they've been beating the piss out of everyone they've played, but they've not played anyone. You
Mhm.
know, and long-time listeners will know how much this hurts me to say, but at least Texas A&M's got a win over a ranked opponent in their 8-0. You know, I just think that the SEC's slightly underrated in this rankings this year.
Yeah, when I saw them come out, so I was watching it Tuesday night and Dancing with the Stars was on, so I got to pause Dancing with the Stars and then I could like flip through the commercials as we waited for the selection, the first, reveal of the rankings. And I was surprised like you, Alex, to see A&M at 3. I think that I mean, does strength of schedule matter or does it not? Like what is it the eye test? Like what are these metrics? Again, I think that that's gonna be a question that we continuously ask ourselves for a long time with this committee and the selection process. Like what is valued, what matters? Because I think that when you look at what Alabama, and we're gonna bring it back to Bama, what they've had to do in the last 5 weeks with their ranked wins in a row, what more can you ask for? And I mean, even A&M looks like a super complete team right now. And like there's a lot of talent there. And they've had to play, a tough schedule. That is a lot tougher, in my opinion, than what we've seen out of Indiana and Ohio State. So I do think the SEC is underrated. But I think that's going to continuously be a problem because not all conferences are created equal, and we're seeing that the SEC continues to rise, especially with the addition of OU and Texas in the mix, even though Texas has not had the season they necessarily expected to have this year. But I think that, when you look at what the schedules are week in and week out, and you're having to stack games, and Tim Keenan said it this week, it was funny. He goes, you know, when you're Bama, everyone turns into LeBron when you play them. So you can't rest because everyone's rising to the occasion to play teams like Alabama. And so I think that it's just an absolute grind, and a team like Indiana, they're not having to go through that grind necessarily.
I feel as if we pause this podcast for a second to reflect back on the fact that Alex Chinnery's just called the SEC underrated in the rankings, which is the first time that has ever happened. Um, if you listen to the SEC head coach's teleconference yesterday, Eli Drinkwitz was quite open about the fact that he still doesn't think that the committee has taken strength of schedule seriously, and he came out with some interesting stats about where Texas A&M should sit in comparison to Ohio State and Indiana. I certainly know if I was going to play the first round of a playoff game, I would not want to play Texas A&M at Kyle Field. That's for sure.
Mm-mm.
I might take the other two. I mean, Ohio State's still the big question mark for me, but I would definitely take the other two in a game rather than go to Kyle Field. Um, we're not. There's some of our listeners will switch off at this moment in time. We're not big fans of Notre Dame on this podcast, and you talked about the conferences, Emily Grace. It struck me that perhaps the biggest talking point out of the first set of rankings was where Notre Dame was placed,
Mm-hmm.
and they sit ahead of both Oklahoma and Texas. And I make that point because we're talking to you as an SEC expert.
Yeah.
Um, but that feels, and I hear Miami fans jumping up and down as well, but that feels as if Notre Dame got the rub of the green in the first round of the rankings.
Yeah, and I think that's something that again, when you look at these teams and it's not all created equal, and Notre Dame is a great example of that. That even OU schedule, like and I say even OU schedule because they're in the SEC, the level of competition that they're facing is elite. And this is the thing too. You can make the argument, well, the SEC could be more prepared for playoffs ultimately when the time comes because you're more battle tested. But there is no, conference, in my opinion, that's as physical as the SEC. When you have these games, that are so incredibly physical, you have to also consider the health of your team, in a lot of ways. And so I think that you're finding that, maybe some teams everyone's banged up towards the end of the season. When you go through a stretch like Bama went through, like you need a bye, and it's a good thing to have a bye. And when it sets you up for the playoffs too, it's okay. What are we ranking these teams on? Is it strength of schedule? And I guess Eli, what time is the teleconference for you guys over there? What time are you listening in?
So it starts 4 p.m. our time.
Dang, that is so interesting. I'm sitting in usually the Bama in the facility listening in. So it's funny to think that you guys are also listening, but it's just a little bit.
It's a 10 a.m. start for you, isn't it?
10 a.m.
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you guys listen to the whole thing every week?
Yes. Yeah.
Dang.
Sometimes I ask a question. Not all the
That's
time,
so
but sometimes.
awesome.
It's cool.
It just makes me happy to think of you guys, y'all over there. Y'all probably making fun of me as I say y'all because I know that that's not in the vernacular, but it is a real thing. I actually met some people from Ireland when they
Yes.
were in town for the SEC. It was for Tennessee Bama. And
Yeah.
they were so nice. I really enjoyed meeting them. But it was funny because they're like, yeah, people actually say y'all. I said, people actually say y'all. Welcome to
It's
the
a
South.
it's a real thing. Hey, listen, we've taken up enough of your time. We could talk to you for another hour, frankly.
We
Or
could.
I certainly could. I don't know if Alex would speak about Alabama for the next hour, although I feel as if we're just slowly converting them. We're getting there.
I
We are
think
slowly converting them. Although,
Alex, come
Alex
on.
Alex has practice at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, so he needs to get to bed at some point soon.
honestly, there's a lot of hours in between then. He's had another disappointing season as a Texas fan. It's not finished yet, though. You could still.
It's not.
It's not over yet.
It'll turn around. What are your thoughts on Arch Manning, Alex? I'm curious.
I mean, I think it was always impossible that he was going to live up to the hype.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's showing that it's bothering him a little bit. And yeah, you look back at it's one of those that was never going to be as successful as everyone thought it was going to be. You were never going to please everyone. He's still a great kid and still a great athlete, but isn't the guy that everyone thought he was going to be, right?
He doesn't
And
have a lot.
it's
He
not
doesn't have a
his
lot
fault.
round about him to help him, though, does he? I mean, he's like offensive line's a bit shaky.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's this whole year the team has not been where they needed it to be. It feels a little bit like, and you've heard some of the reports in the press recently that Sark's got his eyes kind of elsewhere and is almost looking for an out
Yeah,
right
I've seen
now.
that.
And
Mm-hmm.
you can almost see the team feeling that as well a little bit.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, guys, have me back on. I love chatting and hanging out. I actually had some English breakfast tea instead of coffee this morning. So I'm playing to the home crowd too. You know what, y'all are... No, wait, no, that's not good. Y'all are not English at all.
Well, he's English.
You're
I
English?
am.
He's
Yeah,
definitely
George
English.
isn't.
Oh, okay,
Ale
good. I almost was like,
no,
man,
you're
I
right.
should have brought that up. Okay, good.
Alex is from London. I'm definitely not English, but
No, you're not English at all,
uh,
George.
but before you go, tell us what you're working on. Tell our listeners what they can look out for, and for those people who unbelievably don't already follow you, where can they find you?
Yes, okay, we have a lot of fun things in store right now. So it is officially basketball season. I know we talk football, but somehow we're to basketball season. I have two interviews out right now that I'm really, really proud of, and they're on the Cover Crimson YouTube channel. So they're with two Alabama basketball players, Houston Millett and Latrell Wrightsell. You can check those out. And then I have some fun projects coming up with Yay Alabama. And so you guys can check all those out, yayalabama.com. And then my personal social media, I'm trying to be more consistent, especially on TikTok. So you guys hold me accountable. But follow me at MEG_sports on X. And then on Instagram, I'm MEG. On TikTok, I'm MEG. I'll pop up. But I've got a lot of fun things in the works. And I'm just really enjoying kind of the time I'm at in my career because I'm learning a lot. I'm still very much so a sponge. I don't think I'll ever stop really learning, but I'm getting to do some pretty cool things, and it's still I'm still on the cusp, but we're getting there, sooner and sooner, day by day. So, and I love what you guys are doing. Let me just say that you guys are awesome. I find myself talking about what you guys are up to in the mission more often than not. And everyone, once they listen, once they get a taste of it, it's like, where has this been all my life? And I say, I know. I'm glad I put you on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for spreading the word. That's all from us on this episode. Thanks to Emily Grace and Alex for their expertise. Thanks to you for listening and continue to support us. Stay safe and well, and catch you all next time.